Hello everybody, my name is Zadie. Today we'll be talking about the book called The Lorax by Dr. Seuss. I believe that this book is best suited for third graders due to the fact that it contains some creative language that might be a little bit harder for younger children to understand. Okay class, so today we're going to be talking about The Lorax by Dr. Seuss. Now let's look at the pictures, okay? What do you guys think the story is going to be about? Can you guys try to make some predictions about what you think is going to happen in the story? Okay, today we're only going to be reading part of the story, but we're going to be asking lots and lots of questions, and we're going to have a nice little activity after this, after we read part of it, okay guys? So The Lorax by Dr. Seuss. At the far end of town where the grickle grass grows, and the wind smells slow and sour when it blows, and no birds ever sing excepting old crows, is the street of the lifted Lorax. The street of the lifted Lorax. And deep in the grickle grass, some people say, if you look deep enough, you can still see today, where the Lorax once stood, just as long as it could, before somebody lifted the Lorax away. What was the Lorax, and why was it there, and why was it lifted and taken somewhere from the far end of town where the grickle grass grows? The old Onceler still lives there. Ask him. He knows. It's the Onceler's house. Would you like to live in a house like that? Looks kind of small, doesn't it? Oh, but look, it goes all the way up, 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 up. You won't see the Onceler, don't knock at his door. He stays in his lurkum, on top of his store. He lurks in his lurkum, cold under the roof, when he makes his own clothes out of muffered moof. And on special dank nights in August, he peeks out of the shutters, and sometimes he speaks and tells how the Lorax was lifted away. He'll tell you, perhaps, if you're willing to pay. What do you think he wants you to pay? Do you want money? On the end of a rope, he lets down a tin pail, and you have to toss in 15 cents and a nail, and the shell of a great-great-great-grandfather snail. Then he pulls up the pail, makes a most careful count to see if you've paid him the proper amount. Then he hides what you paid him away in his snub, his secret strange hole in his grooveless glove. Then he grunts, I will call you by whisper-ma-phone, for the secrets I tell are for your ears alone. Have you guys ever had anybody tell you a secret that you weren't supposed to tell anybody? That's what the Onceler was going to do. He's going to tell us a secret. Slup! Down slups the whisper-ma-phone to your ear, and the old Onceler's whispers are not very clear, since they have to come down through a snurgly hose, and he sounds as if he had smallish bees up his nose. Now I'll tell you, he says, with his teeth sounding gray, how the Lorax got lifted and taken away. It all started way back, such a long, long time back. Way back in the days when the grass was still green, and the pond was still wet, and the clouds were still clean, and the song of the swoomy swans rang out in space. One morning I came to this glorious place, and I first saw the trees, the truffula trees, the bright-colored tufts of the truffula trees, mile after mile in the fresh morning breeze. Look at all those trees, those truffula trees. And under the trees I saw brown barbaloots, frisking about in their barbaloot suits, as they played in the shade and ate truffula fruits. From the rippleless pond came the comfortable sound of the humming fish humming while splashing around. But those trees, those truffula trees! All my life I'd been searching for trees such as these. The touch of their tufts was much softer than silk, and they had the sweet smell of fresh butterfly milk. I felt a great leaping joy in my heart. I knew just what to do. I unloaded my cart. In no time at all, I had built a small shop. Then I chopped down a truffle tree with one chop. And with great skillful skill, and with great speedy speed, I took the soft tuft, and I knitted a thneed. The instant I'd finished, I heard a gazope. I looked, I saw something pop out of the stump of the tree I'd chopped down. It was sort of a man. Describe him, that's hard. I don't know if I can. He was shortish and oldish and brownish and mossy, and he spoke with a voice that was sharpish and mossy. Mister, he said with a sawdusty sneeze, I am the Lorax. I speak for the trees. I speak for the trees have no tongues, and I'm asking you, sir, at the top of my lungs. He was very upset as he shouted and puffed, What's that thing you've made out of my truffle tuft? Now, guys, this is where we're going to stop. What do you guys think is going to happen next? We saw the Lorax confronted the Onceler. So what do you think is going to happen next? What do you think, based on your predictions, that the book is about? What happened in the story that, made your predictions come true? Or what happened that didn't make them come true? Let's sit and talk about it for a little while. Okay, class, so the reason I chose to do The Lorax by Dr. Seuss is due to the fact that it had some very creative language that left a lot to the imagination, and as such, it was very easy to find things to talk about with the students and in order to get them thinking or to get them to participate in the story. According to our readings of the 35 strategies that we should incorporate while reading aloud to our students, I chose 3 that worked best for me and for my presentation. And the first one that I chose was strategy number 19, which is assessing or generating solutions. I chose that one due to the fact that after reading the story, I was planning on having the students create a sequel or give me alternative characters or alternative plot works so that they could change the story and alter it in a way that they would want the story to go. And I think this also works as making sure that the students are engaged in the story due to the fact that you're actively involving them in creating a whole new story and putting their own twist into the story so they can personalize it and kind of make it their own. The second strategy that I chose is strategy number 21, which was reading critically, clarifying, or critiquing texts. And I think this one was very important to incorporate due to the fact that as you're reading, you need to make sure that your students are understanding what it is that they're reading, because if they don't understand, then they just get the superficial version of the story. So you have to make sure that that you clarify things that may not be quite as obvious to you as it would be to them. And so in order to get them to think critically then about clarifying the text, I asked them to think about their predictions that they made before starting to read the story, and then when we stopped reading the story, I asked them to think about what it was that happened that made their prediction come true or not come true. That way they're fully aware of what's going on in the story in regards to how they thought the story was going to go. And I feel like this really gives them a better understanding of what it is that happened in the story and why it is that it took the turn that it did. And I feel like it's important for children to be able to distinguish what happens what they thought was going to happen based on what actually happened. And I think that this is a good way to do that. And the last strategy that I chose was strategy number 32, which is making plausible inferences, predictions, or interpretations. And I asked the students at the beginning, before reading the story, to make predictions about the text based on what they saw on the cover story. I think that that's a good way to get children to think creatively and to get them engaged, due to the fact that they can just shout whatever they want, as long as it connects to the cover of the book in, a plausible way. Here we see trees and a little creature who later in the book we'll come to know as the Lorax. And so I think it's important for kids to be able to just kind of look at the cover of a textbook and be able to determine whether or not it's something that they might be interested in based on what they think the book will be about. And I think that these are all really important ways of getting your students to engage with the text on a much more deeper level. I believe that Dr. Seuss books are great for children due to the fact that there's so many of them, and Dr. Seuss himself was such a versatile writer. He includes a lot of different topics in his book. I know he has one called "Oh, the Places You'll Go," which is one of my favorite books by Dr. Seuss. And it's an uplifting book, and it shows kids in a not obvious way to them that they can do anything that they set their minds to. And it does it in a fun, creative manner. So I think that Dr. Seuss books are definitely a great way to get your students or your children involved in reading in a very fun and engaging way.